locked and loaded. And that's what we need, to be locked and loaded and ready to go. My name is Patricia Harper Tunley, and I bring you greetings from the 5th Congressional District, the forward 5th, never going back. And what I want to say to you today is that we are in a fight for democracy. And we're going to win because we are locked and loaded. Talk to everybody you know, even the people that you don't normally talk to, and it'd be all right, okay? So what I want to say to you today, I thank you for your service. I thank you for your dedication. The Forward 5th is here to stay. We are here in a marathon. We're not doing a sprint because we're here for the long haul. And around the Commonwealth, because we are Virginians and we don't quit. We don't quit. So we are charged with a mission. And our mission better not be impossible. The mission is to elect our next governor, Abigail Spanberger. So let's get busy, locked, loaded, and ready to go. Forward 5th and the Commonwealth of Virginia, let's get it done.
Charlotteville, welcome your delegate, Delegate Katrina Carlson.
Hello, everyone. I can't lie, this is overwhelming. Wasn't expecting this. This is so fabulous. I'm Katrina Carlson. I'm your delegate in the Virginia General Assembly representing beautiful Charlottesville. I'm also a former teacher, so I'm going to ask you to bear with me. Thank you. Y'all are going to make me have to cut out half my speech because my time's going to run out. Y'all are going to have to bear with me as I have a quick metaphor to illustrate why these November elections matter so much. I want you to picture a car. It can be any car. It's your imaginary car. Local government is the wheels. It's where the rubber meets the road. We have local candidates across the ballot, and it is important that we elect tires that can do the hard work and solve problems for us. The General Assembly, it's where I serve. That's the engine of the car. It's complicated. There's a lot of us, and we have to work together to get anywhere, to get any progress. Wherever the driver wants to go, whether that's creating more affordable health care, lowering prescription costs through PBM reforms, those are all things that Abigail has championed. The General Assembly has to pass the legislation to make that happen. All 100 House of Delegate members in Virginia are on the ballot this November. It is more important than ever to build an engine that works and moves us where we want to go. Federal government, they're a passenger. Passengers can be many things. They can be asleep, they can be passenger princesses, they can be helpful co-pilots that navigate us to the future and to the places we want to go. And that's what Abigail demonstrated when she was a congresswoman for Virginia. She was recognized for being not only her efficiency, but being able to work and bring people together to get things done for us. And I have to take a moment and say you can also have passengers like we have right now, which I would classify as a tantruming toddler. Yes. We can still get places, we just have to maybe make some stops along the way, but we can go where our state wants. So, this brings us to the most important part. Who is the driver of that car? I wish I could say it was all of us, but if you look around this room, you see there are so many of us, over 8 million in Virginia. So, This is the year we need to elect the driver that brings us where we want to go. This is the year we need to elect Abigail Spanberger to be our next governor. And I want to tell you guys, you have a part in this analogy. This, I said it in the beginning, this is your car. We work for you. It is your job to build the car you want and to think about where you want that car to go. I can tell you why I'm standing here. My parents dropped out of high school. I saw them struggling. I ended up going to Yale, becoming a teacher, becoming a lawyer, and now here I am. And that's the place I want to go as a Virginian. A place where a child in a family like mine, a working class family, a struggling family, can get a job that pays them well, find a house they can afford to live in, have a healthcare system that works for them, and an education system that will let their children not only have academic excellence, but opportunity that brings an open road in front of them. And that's what Abigail stands for. I'm so grateful we have someone like her running for Congress, willing to tackle the problems that we are facing, and now my time is done. There is going to be someone on here who can actually explain how a car really works, and I think we're all looking forward to hearing from him. I hope you guys have a wonderful night.
Charlotteville! You may know him as the Science Guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Bill Nye!
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Science rules.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Inertia is a property of matter.
Hello, Charlottesville! Are you fired up? Fired up? It's good to be here with all of you. I grew up the road, across the river in Washington, D.C. I did. My first job was in Arlington, Virginia, at a bike shop. I have a lot of family up there, also in nearby Sterling, Virginia. I have people down in Danville. I have people over in Newport News, and I have people way out in Roanoke. I first heard about Abigail Spanberger after she famously explained to some Democratic Party operatives that they have to stop saying odd, strange, weird things, like defund the police. She knew it was a bad expression. So do you. Nobody wants to stop paying our police. We need police. But as an intelligence officer who has traveled the world, Abigail understands the concern. Her balanced approach has led her to being endorsed by Virginia's police. She's been endorsed by the firefighters, by all the first responders who choose to serve the Commonwealth just as she has. Service, service, service. I'm fired up. I have visited with Abigail in Capitol Hill to discuss space policy and investment in NASA. I can tell you, as your member of Congress, she continually worked across the aisle, getting people on the other side to work together on space, on defense, on drug addiction, affordable housing, transportation, and public health. Abigail Spanberger is the real deal. That's why I am fired up. Now, speaking of public services, the Spanbergers have 3 kids in Virginia public schools. I met them a few minutes ago, and look, I'm fine. No, they're lovely. She wants to keep those kids in schools that are first-class schools so that Virginia can lead the world. Now, some may describe her as a moderate. I describe her as someone who is paying attention. She has thought about the Commonwealth and the work that needs to be done. Check out her website. She's got plans, regular, thought-through plans. Her opponent doesn't. Speaking of Abigail's opponent, the opponent supports the president, the guy who's working very hard to divide us and divide the country. He's making a mess out of everything he touches. Don't know if you watched the debate. It's a lot of fun. Abigail stayed focused and delivered her measured messages. Her opponent, on the other hand, showed us her true self. She was, well, she was ranting. She was talking nonstop, especially, and it was clearly not her turn to speak. Watching other videos of her, I understand it's her style. And it's a bad one, an unproductive one. The debate was hard to watch, let alone hard to hear. This opponent is unfocused at best. She celebrates the Doge cuts, which are bad for our economy, bad for our international standing in the world, bad for our future. And second, she's just bad for women's health. See, women's health is society's health. So Abigail's thoughtless, reckless policy ideas would make everything worse for everyone in Virginia. That's why I am fired up. As I mentioned, I've met with Abigail several times. She is just a good person, a good Virginian, and she's raising a good family. She will do right by all of us. Her opponent just cannot. Thanks again for coming out, Charlottesville. Let's do this. This vote is going to change the world. The Commonwealth of Virginia is going to lead the way into the midterms of 2026. And we are going to do that by getting out the vote. That's why I'm just so excited to see you all here. Now, speaking of excited, our next speaker is a remarkable guy. Everybody, you know who he is. Give it up for the mayor. Give it up for Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Thank you, Charlottesville. Can you feel the energy tonight? Wow, this is incredible. I'll tell you, when you're involved in politics, there's some things that I'd rather not deal with. There's some days that you just they make you question why you decided to be involved in this kind of thing. And then there are other days that just lift you up. There are days when you're in a room full of people with like-minded values who make you think that the future is, in fact, going to be better than the past. And then there are just moments you pinch yourself, like to be on the stage with Bill Nye the Science Guy. It's just not something I ever thought I'd got to do. But thank you, Bill, for your leadership, and thank you, all of you, for being here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't, but I just want to mention something that I know you understand, which is that right now, this fall of 2025, Virginia is pretty much the center of the political universe. No pressure. This election, which is, of course, so important for the Commonwealth, is also so important for the country. And maybe it's fitting that a state at the heart of one of the first big tests of our political life as a country after 2024 ought to be Virginia, the cradle of the republic in so many ways. And that's why I'm so excited, in particular, to be in Charlottesville on a night like this. Here at the famous Jefferson, whose namesake left us a complicated legacy, but one that includes one of the treasures of this nation, the University of Virginia. And also the following words written more than 200 years ago Our government is now taking so steady a course as to show by what road it will pass to destruction, to wit, consolidation of power first, and then corruption, its necessary consequence. Sometimes some of these unprecedented things we're worried about might be just a little more precedented than we realize. Consolidation of power, and then corruption. How timely. We witness the consolidation of power over everything from the government itself to law firms to late-night television comedy, even to academia, in ways and at levels not seen in the 249 years of the American experiment. And I must say that I hope and trust that this and every university will continue to be prepared to take a stand for American values like academic independence. And I know that the corruption has been so brazen and the consolidation of power has been so swift that many of us are left with a sense of powerlessness, that there's nothing we can do. That's how they want us to feel, like we're in front of a steamroller and there's just nothing we can do. That there's nothing we can do but accept the sight of masked federal agents stuffing people into vans because of an op-ed they wrote, or troops being marched down the streets of American communities. But the reality is we are not powerless. A freedom-loving people does not stand for this, and we are prepared to prove it. Which is why millions of Americans just a few days ago rose up in more than 2,000 places across America to say, just as our founders did, that a free people bows to no king. But you get to do something that many of those marchers in hundreds of communities wish that they could do at this moment in this season, and that is vote for the leadership that we need. With early voting underway, even as we speak, Virginians can not only elect the leaders that you deserve, but also send a powerful message about what we all expect from our leaders. That is a message that will be heard around this country. Choosing a leader like Abigail Spanberger is not just a smart hire, it is a demand that policies change and a recognition that personnel is policy. I woke up today with very mixed emotions in Washington, D.C., and thought about the people who are running that branch of our government. And I don't just mean the president and the vice president, but across the board, we could do so much better. We can do so much better than a Secretary of Defense who accidentally sends secret battle plans to a journalist on an unclassified group chat. We can do so much better than that. When a Secretary of Homeland Security can't be bothered for 72 hours to launch search and rescue teams, just waiting for the go-ahead and the order to go help Americans as floodwaters rise in Texas, we know that we can do so much better than that. We can do so much better than a Secretary of Health who is doing his best to make hepatitis great again in the United States of America. We can do a hell of a lot better than a Secretary of Education who gives a speech, and I'm not making this up, talks about the importance of, quote, A1. A1. Which means, of course, she doesn't know what AI stands for. Which means the person in charge of our children's education doesn't know the difference between a steak sauce and the most important technology to affect schooling since the invention of the pencil. We can do so much better than that. And don't even get me started on my success, right? After all the work we did on safety and on making sure that airlines treat their passengers better, they replaced me with, and again, I'm not making this up, they replaced me with an airline industry lobbyist. Now, why am I talking about federal government? Because you might look at all this going on in Washington and throw up your hands, because the truth is there is only so much we can do about that for the next 3 years. Or you could remember the importance of the fact that our system places so much power in the hands of the people you are about to elect, state leaders, from the governor on through to legislators and the other statewide offices, and know that you will never make the mistake of treating the presidency like the only office that matters. You know what a difference a truly outstanding governor could make, and realize we don't have to wait around, because the change that we have been waiting for starts right here, right now in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, I've known Abigail Spanberger for years. We worked side by side to deliver the biggest infrastructure package in modern memory, delivering hundreds of improvements across Virginia alone. Just in the Charlotteville area, everything from the airport to 100-year-old gas lines being replaced, we worked together, and one of the things that I love about her is that everything about her turns the GOP narrative about who Democrats are upside down. Right? They talk law and order. Enter Abigail Spanberger, who served in federal law enforcement, going after narcotics cases and money laundering, who understands from firsthand experience that the job of law enforcement is to keep the American people safe, not to execute a revenge plan against the political adversaries of the president. They talk a good game about America first, but while the current president avoided serving his country by having his millionaire dad sign off on a fake doctor's note, or arrange one, in Abigail Spanberger, we have someone who volunteered to put herself on the line and dedicated herself to serving this country as a career intelligence officer. They say Democrats are extreme, but in Abigail Spanberger, we have somebody who was once literally named the most bipartisan member of the whole delegation, because what she cares about is just getting good things done. And here's the thing, when you clear away all of those false narratives, as she does so effectively, then we can get to the reality, which is that on issue after issue, she represents what most Virginians want to see, and her opponent absolutely does not. See, most Virginians already agree and believe that when it comes to taxes, it is the wealthy who need to pay their fair share, and working Americans who need a break, not the other way around. People in Virginia already recognize that good government is about making everyday life more affordable, housing and health care and utilities, as Abigail is proposing to do. And most Virginians have no use for Republican bills to cut Medicaid and to double your health insurance premiums. Most Americans know that having a Second Amendment is absolutely compatible with common sense measures like background checks to keep people safe from gun violence. Including most gun owners recognize that. Most Republicans recognize that. Most Virginians recognize that in a free country you ought to be able to be who you are, love who you love, and it is dead wrong to fire somebody for who they are just because it goes against your idea of your interpretation of your religion. People know that in this state. Most Virginians agree that doing right by our kids isn't about launching endless culture wars while actual science gets quietly deleted from government websites and textbooks. It is about making sure that we fund quality public education and support the people who are teaching our kids.
And
most Virginians know that wherever you come down on an issue as sensitive, as moral, as personal, as the beginning of life, wherever you draw that line, we agree on who gets to draw the line, and that is a woman facing a decision about her own health and her own future. So you see, this is what the mainstream actually looks like. And we've got a future leader and Democrats up and down the ticket who reflect that, who speak to people who want problem solving, not trolling, people who want a healthy civic life, not the gutter of the online comment section taking over our lives. Abigail Spanberger is out there every day talking about how to lower the cost of health care, lower the cost of housing, lower the cost of utilities so that everyone can not just get by, but get ahead and live well in this state. But here's the thing. Just because you've won a policy argument doesn't mean you automatically get to win the election. That's where you come in. She and the other candidates, they are doing their jobs as candidates, but all of us have to be involved. So we need every eligible voter here to make your plan to vote. And if you've gotten your vote in already, which I hope you have, then you got to talk to everyone you know, especially the ones who would never come to a rally like this, but who have so much on the line, and talk to them about why you're involved and see if they've made a plan. I need you to pester the people that you love until you're sure that they're going to get their vote in. Because that's how we're going to deliver this election. That's how we're going to get results for Virginians, and that's how we're going to generate something that, to use a word that I know has fallen out of fashion in our time, is hope. Sometimes people ask me where to find hope, when we will summon enough hope to do something, but that gets it backwards. I've been thinking all year about the words of Roberto Unger, a thinker who said the wisest words I've ever heard spoken about hope, that hope is the consequence of action more than its cause. So when you show up one Saturday morning at the same time as millions of your fellow Americans to insist that our nation have no king, you're not waiting for hope, you are generating hope. And coming here tonight is an act of hope, because you wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be here if we didn't believe that we can make a difference through the process of electing better leaders. And going to the polls is an act of hope, the kind of hope that captures what it means to be an American, that vindicates the central premise of our founding, which is that everyday life is better in a country where the people get to tell the government what to do instead of the other way around. So, my friends, you can make everyday life better in this state. You can get a problem solver into the highest office in the Commonwealth, and you can send a message of hope that will be noticed around the country and heard around the world. But we only have a few days to go. So are you ready to go the extra mile and make sure that happens? Well, then you've got me feeling pretty good. Please welcome my friend, an extraordinary leader, and the next governor of the great Commonwealth of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger.
Incredible evening. I am so excited to be here with all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the campaign. Thank you for taking an action of hope. How amazing it is to be introduced by Secretary Pete Buttigieg. He said we worked together throughout his time as Secretary of Transportation and my time in Congress, and it's true. And I remember one particular evening when we were working on the infrastructure bill, and we were on the phone well after 11:30 at night, and I was in DC away from my family, and so I thought, oh, this is no worry for me. I've got nothing else to do apart from read all of the other papers that I had for the next day. But I thought, oh my goodness, this man, he's so committed to his job. And then months and months later, there was some articles that came out that in fact that man who was so committed to his job was actually a new dad. And as many of you may remember, his children were born, and for a time they remained in the hospital. And so later, I remember months later, I said, that time we talked late at night. Yeah, he was at the hospital with his babies, demonstrating what it is to have a commitment to serving your community while holding the most vital and the most precious of your responsibilities close to the heart. And I am proud of the work that we did in that infrastructure bill, the billions of dollars delivered to Virginia. And I am proud that as a member of Congress, we welcomed the Secretary to Virginia to see so many of the projects that, in fact, we were delivering because of that work to build a coalition around an obvious challenge: infrastructure, roads, bridges, broadband internet connectivity, water infrastructure, the brass tacks that make our community strong, that allow us to bring investment to Virginia, that allow us to live our lives, the things we never really notice until they're not working or not there. That's the work of good governance, focused leadership, working to deliver good things for people that enable other good things. And I am very excited to be in Charlottesville. Wahoo wah, everyone. I will tell you, when I was walking across grounds many years ago, or even when, at least in my day, it was like a special treat to come over to the downtown mall, I would have never guessed that one day I would be here in this building running to serve the Commonwealth and the communities that I love across Virginia. And I say that because as we have so many students who are here gathered today, I just want to impress upon you that everything that we are working towards, whether it is Secretary Buttigieg and the work that he did as Secretary of Transportation, and before that in leading a city he loved, whether it is Nye the Science Guy, who educated generations of children and captivated people by the idea of what it is to learn and to be excited by science and discovery and figuring things out. Or whether you are someone like Katrina Carlson, herself first an educator, then an attorney, and now a woman who day in and day out is representing you all in Richmond, bringing voices of people from Charlottesville to Richmond, advocating for the things that she believes in, or whether it is Patricia, our CD5 chair, who day in and day out is working to bring people together and elect people that she believes in. So I say to the students, whatever those paths, I hope you see that there are so many examples for the ways that you can choose to serve a community through advocacy, through education, through service in the military or in public service. And I welcome you all, and I hope that in the future you will define what that path of service is for you, because the path of service has been one that has defined my life and one that I have believed in every day along the way. I grew up in a house of service. My dad, an Army veteran and then a federal agent, my mother, a nurse, and they always instilled upon us the idea that there's no higher calling than service to country. It's a message that I internalized. It's a message that I believed in, and I grew up knowing that I wanted to follow in my dad's footsteps, and I did, first as a federal agent and then as a CIA officer. And the mission of traveling the world and of serving overseas and of endeavoring to answer some of the toughest questions so that somebody somewhere could make a good decision about an issue of national security, so that I could be working day in and day out to keep the American people safe. It was a mission I believed in. It was a mission that was incredible. And in 2014, after being overseas with our family, we were based in California, and we were bidding on our next assignment. And we brought out a globe. And at the time, my oldest daughter, she was 5, we brought out a globe, and we said, where should we go? It was supposed to be a teachable moment. Where should we go? Name your place anywhere in the world we can go. And my daughter said, Virginia. And we said, no. And she said, why wouldn't we go to Virginia? Everyone we love lives in Virginia. And she was right. Everyone we love lives in Virginia, and we decided to pivot from that path of service to country that we had been on with my job to service to community. And I thought, we're gonna move back home. We're gonna settle down. We're gonna put down roots, and we're gonna invest in a community that we love, the community that made my husband and I both who we are. He's also a Wahoo. E-school. Obviously, I was arts and sciences. And we came back home, and I got a job in the private sector. I got my employment declassified. I started volunteering with Moms Demand Action to do advocacy for an issue that I believed in, which is keeping our community safe. Started a Girl Scout troop, because I believe you're never too young to challenge yourself, particularly in the woods and with a ropes course. And then in the lead up to and the aftermath of the 2016 election, I realized that so much of what I believed about our political system was perhaps a little bit off kilter, and I wanted to see something different in politics, and so I decided to run for Congress. I decided to run for Congress in a district that hadn't elected a Democrat since 1968, in a district that my predecessor had won by 15 points. And I knew if we brought people together around the idea of what is principled, focused leadership and what can it do for our community, that we could win. And it is because of volunteers and people who believed at that time that their action could make a change. We won. We flipped that seat, and I got to work in the halls of Congress. And I'm proud of the bills that I got signed into law. I'm proud of the acknowledgments of the work that I had. But at the end of the day, the most extraordinary thing about being in elected office is that people invite you into their worlds. People invite you into their homes. They invite you onto their farms. They invite you into their businesses and their classrooms so that you can see their challenges and you can see their successes. And there is nothing more extraordinary than being able to witness people's lives, to be welcomed in, and to be told the challenges that people face. And so throughout my time in Congress, time and time again, I realized that so many of the issues that people would bring to me, while there was definitely a nexus at the federal level, if you want to make clear change and progress for people in a meaningful way with a level of efficiency and effectiveness that kind of is my speed, state government is the place where you pass a bill, the governor signs it into law, and you are meaningfully impacting people's lives. And during my time running for governor, over these past almost 2 years running for governor, you think it feels like a long time. People have talked about the challenges of what it is to get yet another bill in the mail, to get that prescription from your doctor and go to the pharmacy counter and wait for them to ring you up before you know whether or not you're actually going home with the medication that your doctor prescribed. What it is to know that if you ever want to move to the community you grew up in, or that if you might want to take a risk and start a business, that the cost of housing, healthcare, energy, all of it, time and time again, lack of affordable childcare, it all creates challenges and impedes people's abilities to dream their biggest dream. And frankly, time and time again, when I hear about these challenges, now we are seeing them even more kind of austere and clear because of everything that is coming out of Washington. And everything that is coming out of Washington, Secretary Buttigieg certainly ran through the litany of things. But it's the attacks on our health care, catastrophic attacks on health care that will lead to the closure of rural hospitals, that will lead to billions of dollars out of Virginia's healthcare system, that has already led to the announced closure of 3 rural health clinics, not to mention hundreds of thousands of Virginians who will lose their health care coverage, rising costs for everyone. The tariffs that have literally raised costs, input costs for farmers and producers, and the retaliatory tariffs that have closed entire markets to Virginia goods. The impacts of tariffs on small businesses, and importantly, the attack on federal workers from this administration. The DOGE efforts beginning at the beginning of this administration that fired tens of thousands of federal employees, it wasn't just an attack on their jobs, on the livelihoods of Virginians, it's an attack on a commitment to service, people who devoted themselves to service to country. And when we have leaders in Richmond who refuse to recognize the impacts of bad legislation coming out of Washington that will raise prices for Virginians, of bad tariff policies that are hurting Virginians, and an attack on the federal workforce with DOGE 1.0, and now their effort to continue it during a government shutdown. These are attacks on Virginians and on our economy, and we need a governor who will stand up against them. But here in Virginia, we know the stakes of this election. And in fact, we know all the challenges coming at us from Washington, from bad policies. But what we will do this November is not just vote against something, but we will vote for the policies that we believe in. The principles that will drive us, because you know throughout the country, people are anxious to be able to take an action. It's why we saw hundreds of thousands of people march across the United States, and it is only in Virginia and New Jersey that we have statewide elections where we can prove to the rest of the country, when we have the opportunity to make a change at home in our state, we will take it. Because we know the stakes of this election and we know what we are for. We are for a governor focused relentlessly on lowering costs in housing, healthcare, and energy, recognizing that there are a lot of challenges facing people in every corner of Virginia, and we need a governor who has a plan in working with the General Assembly and with the administration to drive down costs and make life more livable for Virginians. We know that we want a governor who will strengthen Virginia's public schools, recognizing Recognizing that the strength of our schools are the strength of our future, the strength of our workforce, the strength of our economy, and the way that we achieve and allow our kids to achieve every dream that might be theirs. And it is not just K through 12 schools that matter, that are part of ensuring a pathway towards a bright future for all kids and for Virginians. It is our universities and our community college systems. And here in Charlottesville, we know that academic freedom is also under attack. And we need a governor who will stand up for the ideals put in place with Mr. Jefferson's University, celebrating academic freedom and recognizing that the way that we make discovery, the way that we have grown as a nation is through academic debate and inquiry, and recognizing that that push and pull of ideas, it doesn't just make students stronger, it makes our community stronger, and frankly, that our universities under attack by the federal government are also drivers of our economy here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we need a governor who will stand up for all of our institutions. And it's not a very good name for chanting, I will admit it. But I appreciate it. We need a governor who's going to work to grow our economy, bring investments to the Commonwealth, ensure that those with a great idea or a dream are able to start that business here. I know that so frequently we will celebrate people who graduated from this university or that high school in Virginia and then went off to California to start a business. We wish them good luck, but we want them to do it here in Virginia. And we need a governor who is focused on ensuring that when we bring talent to the Commonwealth, you fall in love with our beautiful Virginia and you stay here building businesses and growing jobs and growing families and investing in the next generation. And we need a governor who recognizes that it is not up to politicians what decisions a woman may make with her own body. And we need a governor who's going to stand up for Virginia, celebrate it every day, and ensure that people around the world know that we are not just an example for how you do right at the ballot box this November, but that we are an example of how it is that we govern well once we win. I have 3 daughters, and they were very delighted to be able to meet Bill Nye the Science Guy. In fact, for years, when he would come to Capitol Hill and do advocacy for science policy and space-related policy, and I would meet with him frequently, at one point in time, I think one of my daughters said, you should never come home again if you meet Bill Nye the Science Guy one more time without us. So I'm grateful that he finally made sure that I could fulfill my children's wish, because if I was to see him at an event and they were not with me, it would be very problematic for me. But I have 3 daughters, and they drive me so frequently. And I always tell the story about my oldest daughter and the globe, because it's true, and because it's what motivated me to bring my family back home to the place that I love and the place that made me who I am. And it's what drove me, frankly, my daughters, to invest my time and energy in working to make our Commonwealth better for other people's children and other people's futures. And my middle daughter, who so frequently volunteers along the campaign trail, once remarked that I don't ever tell stories about her. But I have a really good one. And so for those who are here, you are here because you are engaged and because you love politics, or at least you are motivated about this election and you are taking that action of hope that Secretary Buttigieg mentioned. But for all of your friends or families members or neighbors who might just be overwhelmed by this moment that we are in, by the news that every day is a new thing that might make you want to just turn away. Many years ago, when I was first running for office, my daughters were in first grade and fourth grade and preschool. And at my daughter's school, because the 2016 election had been so contentious, my daughter's school made a rule that they weren't allowed to talk about politics. They weren't allowed to talk about politics because talking about politics meant there was a kid crying on the playground. There were fights. There were people repeating the things they had heard adults say on television that children should never say to one another. And so they made this rule, no politics in school. And in the first year of my campaign, we got buttons, and they say Spanberger for Congress. And my middle daughter slapped a button on her backpack in first grade. And my oldest daughter, the dutiful oldest daughter, said, "Charlotte, you can't have that button on your backpack. It's politics. You can't have politics at school." And my middle daughter looked at her with the ferocity that only a middle daughter could have and said, "It's not politics, it's my name." And put the backpack on her back and walked out the door. And I think of that story because for her, yeah, it's not politics, it's her name. But for all of us, politics, it's not politics. Politics is about the air that we breathe, the schools that we attend, the roads that we drive on, the internet that we do or do not have, the electricity that is generating in our communities. It's about the opportunities that exist, the new housing that is or isn't built. It's about the health care that we have. Everything is political. Everything comes down to the people making choices, whether it's at the local level, the state level, or the federal level. And so I reflect on that story because in a moment, my daughter, I think, reduced down the most important lesson, which is don't turn away from the things that can be political. Turn towards them because they are everything. They are our future. They are the taxes you pay. They are your ability to retire. They are everything. And so when I think about what this moment means to anyone who has friends or family that is just tired, remind them that everything comes down to the people who are making decisions. And please tell them that I will work tirelessly to make good decisions, to serve them and to serve you and to do right by the Commonwealth of Virginia, because that is what elected office should be. It should be service. And so, Virginia, 2 weeks from today, I want us to be celebrating, but we need to do this together. These next 2 weeks, we need to forge a path forward. We need to get everyone out to vote. We need to knock those last doors and make those last phone calls. So I'm going to ask you all, are you ready to send a message to the rest of the country and the world about what it is that we do here in Virginia when given the opportunity to go cast our ballots? Are you ready to elect people who will be focused on strengthening our economy and creating opportunity for all of our kids and all of our neighbors? Are you ready to put Virginia on path towards having the best public schools in the entire country? Are you ready to make Virginia more affordable for all Virginians? Are you ready to have a governor who puts the people of Virginia first and works every day to serve the people of Virginia? One last one. Are you ready to win? Thank you. We will win.
My baby born a Birkin. She's been telling me all night long. Gasoline and groceries, the list goes on and on. It's 9 to 5, ain't working. Why the hell do I work so hard? I can't worry about my problems. I can't take them when I'm gone. 1, here comes the 2 to the 3 to the 4. Tell them bring another round, we need plenty more. 2 stepping on the table, she don't need a dance floor. Oh my, good Lord. Someone pour me up a double shot of whiskey. They know me and Jack Daniels got a history. There's a party downtown near 5th Street. Everybody at the bar getting tipsy. Everybody at the bar getting tipsy. Everybody at the bar getting tipsy. I've been boozy since I left. I ain't changing for a check. Tell my mom I ain't forget. Woke up drunk at 10 a.m. We gon' do this shit again. Tell your girl to bring a friend. Oh Lord. 1, here comes the 2 to the 3 to the 4. Tell them bring another round, we need plenty more. 2 stepping on the table, she don't need a dance floor. Oh my.
Charlotteville, you have just set a downtown political rally record of over 1,300 people here in the city of Charlottesville. Please wait 2 minutes for folks to leave, and then doors will open and we will depart. Ladies and gentlemen, when we vote, we win, and thank you. Have a great night.
When it's last call and they kick us out the door. It's getting kinda late, but the ladies want some more. Oh my, good Lord. Tell them drink some. Someone pour me up a double shot of whiskey.